On Christmas, my parents told me I was no longer family and removed me from their will after years being treated like an atnem. But 48 hours later, I gave them a lesson they'd never forget. My name is Mark, I'm 31 years old, and I know that money rules everything. I work 2 jobs, managing a logistics department by day and bartending at a high-end restaurant by night. I don't do this because I love working myself to exhaustion, but because I learned early that if you don't want to rely on others, you need your own capital. Independence isn't given, it's bought. Ironically, I was the only one in my family who actually earned a living, yet I was the only one who was never respected. To my parents, I wasn't a son, I was an investment, a worker they could rely on. They didn't ask for help, they expected it. At first, it was small things, covering a bill here, helping with some home repairs there. Then it became bigger, paying off debts, funding my younger brother Ethan's college tuition, buying my mom a new car. "Mark, you understand, right?" my mother would say with that fake softness in her voice. "You're the responsible one. Ethan is still young, he needs to focus on his future." And what about my future? Ethan, of course, had no issue with this arrangement. He had never worked a day in his life. His tuition, vacations, and latest gadgets were all covered with my money, and he never hid how little he thought of me. "Why do you work so much, Mark?" my friend Marcus asked me once over a late-night drink after my shift. I just shrugged. "Because no one else will." Then Christmas came. I bought gifts for everyone, my parents, Ethan, his girlfriend, even their dog. I placed the bags under the tree, sat at the table, and listened to the words that would change everything. My father set down his fork, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "We're removing you from the will. You're no longer part of this family." For a moment I froze. Ethan smirked. My mother avoided my gaze. Finally, Ethan muttered, leaning back in his chair. I was wondering when they'd say it. I let out a quiet laugh. "All right," I said calmly, placing my napkin down. "Then let's be fair about it." 2 days later, I stopped paying their bills. When the house went dark, the water stopped running, and the heat shut off in the middle of a snowstorm. They suddenly remembered I existed. They started begging for my help. Sitting in my warm apartment, I scrolled through my phone, watching their panic unfold in real time. Missed calls, dozens of messages, each one more desperate than the last. "Mark, something's wrong with the electricity. The whole house is dark. Call me." "Dad, did you forget to pay the bill? Fix it now." "Ethan, you think this is funny, jerk? The Wi-Fi is down too. I was in the middle of a game." I smirked, tossing my phone onto the coffee table. They still didn't get it. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. I was done. Months earlier, I had seen how we got here. "You're lucky you have us," my mother always told me, stirring her tea like she was bestowing wisdom upon a clueless child. "A lot of people don't have family to rely on, but we're here for you, Mark. That's what family is. Support." Support. Let's talk about support. For the past 10 years, I had been their personal safety net. Every late bill, every emergency expense, every ridiculous demand. I was their answer to everything. When Ethan failed a class and had to pay for extra courses, guess who covered it? When my dad's car broke down and he didn't want to touch his savings, who pulled out their wallet? When my mom wanted to remodel the kitchen because it looked outdated, who took care of it? I never asked for a dime in return. I never asked for thanks either. But you know what? Maybe I should have, because the one time I hesitated, the one time I didn't immediately cave, they turned on me like wolves. It was a few months ago. I had just finished a brutal 14-hour shift at the restaurant, my feet aching, my body running on caffeine and stubbornness. I had planned to go home, crash for a few hours, then do it all over again the next day. Instead, I walked through the door and into a family ambush. Mom, Dad, and Ethan were sitting in the living room, waiting for me. Their canned questions. I knew that look. It was the same one they had when they wanted something expensive. "What's going on?" I asked, tossing my keys onto the counter. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. "We've been talking, and it's time you step up a little more, Mark." Step up? I was already carrying their entire lives on my back. Ethan leaned forward, smirking like he already knew I wasn't going to like what came next. "The house," Mom said softly. "We think you should take over the mortgage payments." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Dad shifted in his chair. "You make more than all of us combined, Mark. It just makes sense." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You're joking?" Mom frowned. "Why would we joke about something this important?" "Oh, I don't know," I said, shaking my head. "Maybe because you're asking me to pay for a house I don't even live in. You spend so much time here anyway," Ethan said, stretching his arms behind his head. "Might as well make it official." That's when I realized this wasn't a request. They had already decided in their minds that I wasn't a son or a brother. I was a walking bank account, and when a bank refuses a loan, what do people do? They get angry. "Mark, Mom said, her voice dripping with fake patience. It's just money. You always say you work hard to support the people you love. Yeah, I said coldly. People who deserve it. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Don't be selfish. Selfish? I had spent the last decade breaking my back for them, and they dared to call me selfish? You're unbelievable, Ethan muttered. You have no problem buying yourself a new car, but you won't help your own family. I clenched my fists. The car's on a loan, you know, something normal adults pay for themselves. You're the only one here who can afford it, Mom said sharply. And if you really loved us, you wouldn't even be arguing right now. Ah, there it was, the guilt trip. That was their final trick. And the sad part? It used to work, but not anymore. I exhaled slowly, picking up my keys. No, Mom blinked. What? No, I repeated, turning toward the door. I'm not paying for the house. I'm not paying for Ethan's life. And I'm definitely not going to sit here and be insulted for not doing enough when I've already done more than anyone else ever would. Ethan scoffed. Yeah, and what are you going to do about it? Just walk away? I smiled. Just watch me. Back to the present, reality hits hard. 2 days after I cut the utilities, the real panic began. Mom called me 12 times in one day. Dad left a voicemail, his voice laced with poorly hidden anger. This isn't funny, Mark. You made your point. Now turn everything back on. Ethan, of course, sent the most entitled message of them all. You're such a child. You think we can't survive without you? We'll be fine. Enjoy your pathetic life. I rolled my eyes. Oh, I was enjoying it, especially when less than 24 hours later, another message came through. Mark, we're so sorry about Christmas. Please, can we talk? Dad, your mother isn't feeling well. The cold is too much for her. Can't you just be reasonable? Ethan, dude, the pipes are freezing. Come on, man, this is serious. I smirked. Oh, now it was serious. They had spent years treating me like a second-class family member. They had cut me out of the will, laughed in my face, and told me I wasn't part of their world anymore. And yet, here they were, crawling back. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee before finally typing a response. I thought I wasn't part of the family anymore. I chuckled, tossing my phone aside. Let them freeze. For the first time in my life, I had silence. No calls demanding money, no last-minute emergencies that somehow always became my problem. No guilt trips disguised as family dinners. Just peace. I woke up, stretched, and made myself breakfast without rushing out the door to put out someone else's fire. The world felt different, lighter. Then the knocking started, loud and desperate. I sighed, already knowing who it was. When I opened the door, there they stood. Mom, wrapped in layers of coats, her lips blue from the cold. Dad, his face tight with frustration. And Ethan, shivering, his entitled smirk finally gone. For the first time in years, he actually looked nervous. I crossed my arms. To what do I owe the pleasure? Mom started, her voice shaking, not from emotion, but from the lack of heat. This has gone on long enough. You've made your point. I raised an eyebrow. Have I? Dad took a deep breath, like he was preparing for a battle he didn't want to fight. Come on, son. Your mother isn't feeling well. The house is like an icebox. I leaned against the doorframe, pretending to think. Huh, that's rough. Ethan snapped. This isn't funny, Mark. His voice cracked. From frustration, or maybe from spending the last 3 nights freezing his ass off. You're acting like a crazy person who turns off their own family's power. I laughed. Oh, so now I'm part of the family again? Mom's face twisted. Mark, please. No, really, I said, tilting my head. Because the last time we spoke, you were kicking me out of the will, saying I wasn't one of you anymore. Dad exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. Mark, let's be reasonable here. Reasonable. They always pulled that word out when they wanted something. I stepped aside, gesturing toward the warm apartment behind me. You must be freezing. Come in. They hesitated for only a second before practically running inside. Ethan's hands shook as he grabbed a mug from my kitchen counter. He didn't even care what was inside. He just wanted something hot. Mom unwrapped her scarves, sighing with relief as the heat from my apartment thawed her out. Dad leaned against the wall, rubbing his hands together. They were pathetic. All that arrogance, all that superiority, all those years of treating me like an ATM, and now they were reduced to beggars. I sat down on the couch watching them. So, what's the plan? Mom blinked. Plan? I shrugged. You came all this way, surely you have a plan. Ethan glared. Just turn the power back on, Mark. I smiled. There it was. No apology, no acknowledgement of what they had done, just another demand. Nah, I said, stretching my legs. Ethan slammed his mug down. You're such a selfish person. Watch it, I said, my voice dropping into dangerous territory. He shut up fast. Dad cleared his throat. Mark, we're family. I let out a slow breath. Right. Family. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Let's talk about family, I said, sitting up. Where was that family spirit when you decided I wasn't worth being in your will? Mom's lips pressed together. Where was it, I continued, when you called me selfish for not paying for a house I don't even live in? Ethan groaned, rubbing his face. Jesus, Mark, are you going to cry about that forever? My jaw clenched. This wasn't regret. This wasn't guilt. This was annoyance. They weren't sorry for what they had done. They were just mad that it backfired. Mom sat up straighter, folding her hands in her lap. Mark, let's make a deal. I almost laughed. A deal? I gestured for her to continue. Go on. You turn the utilities back on, she said carefully. And in return, we forget about this little tantrum. I stared at her. Then I laughed hard. Dad frowned. What's so funny? I wiped a tear from my eye. You really think I'm the one having a tantrum? Ethan scoffed. You're acting like a lunatic over a will, Mark. I exhaled slowly. They still didn't get it. All right, I said, standing up. You want to make a deal? Fine. They perked up. I'll turn the utilities back on, I said, walking to the door. For $10,000 up front. Silence. Ethan's mouth dropped open. What? Mark, we don't have that kind of money. Dad's face turned red. Are you out of your mind? I grinned. No, just finally playing by your rules. Because to them, everything had always been a transaction. They used me, demanded things, acted like I owed them everything. Now I was the one setting the price. Consider it rent, I said, since I basically funded that house for the past decade. Mom turned to Dad, her voice dropping to a whisper. We can't afford that. Dad clenched his jaw. He's bluffing. I opened the front door. Then you'd better start looking for candles. Ethan shot up. You're seriously kicking us out into the cold? I smirked. No, I'm letting you leave. There's a difference. They hesitated, waiting, hoping I would break. But I didn't. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching as the reality sank in. I was done. Finally, Dad stood up. He didn't look at me as he walked past, just muttered, Let's go. Mom hesitated, her eyes searching mine, looking for something. The old Mark? The one who would cave. She didn't find him. With a heavy sigh, she pulled her coat tighter around her and followed Dad out. Ethan was the last to leave. He paused at the door, his jaw tight. You're really doing this? He asked. I looked him dead in the eye. I already did. He scoffed. You're going to regret this. I grinned. I doubt it. And with that, I shut the door hard. I waited until I heard their car pull out of the driveway before exhaling. My hands were steady. For the first time in my life, I had won, and wow, it felt good. The silence in my apartment wasn't just peaceful, it was powerful. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for a call about an urgent expense. My money was mine, my time was mine, and my family, they were on their own. The first week without me, they tried to act like nothing had changed. Ethan posted some fake motivational nonsense on Instagram. People come and go, but real family stays together. No time for fake ones. Oh, that was cute. Mom tried guilt-tripping me through text messages. Mom, Mark, I know you're upset, but don't let pride ruin our family. Call me. Your father is worried about you. We all are. Talk about what? The fact that they treated me like disposable income? The fact that they only cared now because their free ride was over? I ignored the messages. Then, day 5 hit, and the mask started slipping. The collapse began. It started with a call from our nosy Aunt Linda. Mark, she sighed dramatically, I heard what happened. You can't be serious about this. I'm very serious, I said, leaning back in my chair. Your mother is miserable, she continued. Your father is furious, and Ethan... I smirked. Let me guess, Ethan is struggling. Aunt Linda hesitated. Well, yes. The house is cold, the bills are stacking up. Your parents can't just fix this overnight. Not my problem, I said easily. She gasped like I had just slapped her. Mark, that's your family? No, Aunt Linda, I said, grinning as I finally said it out loud. I was their financial plan, and now they need a new one. I hung up. The next day, I got a call from Ethan. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. What? I answered flatly. You happy now? He snapped. The house is falling apart, Dad's losing his mind, and Mom won't stop crying. You win, okay? Just come back and fix this. I snorted. Fix it with what, Ethan? My money? You don't even need it, he yelled. You make more than all of us. It's not like you're struggling. I let out a slow breath. So, let me get this straight. The problem isn't that you used me for years. It's that I finally stopped letting it happen. Ethan fell silent. Then, in a lower voice, he muttered, You're really doing this? I already did, I said, smiling. And I'm never going back. Click. I blocked his number. The moment it all sank in, 1 week after cutting them off, I got a final text from my mother. Mom, Mark, I don't know what to say anymore. We never thought you would do something like this to us. But I hope you can live with yourself knowing you abandoned your family in their time of need." I stared at the message for a long time, then I typed out the last thing I would ever say to her. "I didn't abandon you. You abandoned me, the moment you decided I was only worth keeping if I paid for everything. Now you get to live with that choice. Take care." I hit send, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. The life they never wanted me to have. I started living for myself. I upgraded my apartment. I booked a vacation, my first one in years. I actually enjoyed my money instead of watching it disappear into someone else's pockets. And guess what? The world didn't end. They survived without me. Turns out, when people actually have to figure out their own problems, they do. I heard through a mutual friend that Ethan had finally started looking for a job. Mom and Dad downsized to a smaller house. Their lives adjusted just like I always knew they could. They just didn't want to, not as long as I was there to make it easy. The last attempt at manipulation came months later. I didn't hear from them, and I didn't miss them. Then, one day, I got an email. Subject, from Dad. I rolled my eyes but opened it. "Mark, I don't know if you care, but your mother's birthday is coming up. She would love to see you. Maybe we can put all this behind us." I chuckled. Put this behind us? That was rich. I typed out a reply. "Dad, I appreciate the invitation, but the last time I saw you, I wasn't part of the family anymore. And honestly, I like it that way. Tell Mom I said happy birthday." Send. And just like that, I closed the last door they had left open. I wasn't their ATM. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their family. And I never would be again. Months passed. No more desperate calls, no more guilt-tripping messages, no more fake invitations to talk. They had finally accepted it. I was gone, and I had never been happier. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself, not as their backup plan, not as their ATM, not as their safety net. Just me. Then, out of nowhere, my father showed up at my door the last visit. It was a quiet evening. I had just finished dinner, sitting in my apartment with a glass of whiskey, enjoying the peace, when bam bam, I sighed, already knowing who it was before I even opened the door. And sure enough, there he was, my father, standing in my hallway like a man who had run out of options. His face looked older, the arrogance washed away by stress. He had lost weight. His coat looked a little worn. He wasn't here to threaten me. He was here because he needed something. I leaned against the doorframe. "What do you want?" He exhaled, rubbing his temple. "Mark, just hear me out." I tilted my head. "You're standing at my door. I think that means I win, don't you?" He clenched his jaw but didn't argue. Instead, he sighed and said, "Your mother wants to see you." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Oh, now she does. Mark, please. He misses you." Ah, there it was, the last card they had to play, the pity card. I gave him a slow, amused smile. "Let me get this straight. You cut me out of the will, told me I wasn't part of the family, laughed in my face when I finally stood up for myself, and now that you're struggling, I'm supposed to feel bad?" "She's still your mother," he snapped. "And I was still your son," I shot back. Didn't seem to mean much back then. He looked away, exhaling through his nose. He knew I was right. I leaned in slightly. "Why are you really here, Dad? What is it that you're too proud to say?" Silence. Then, finally, "The house is gone." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "We lost it," he muttered, his voice low. "After you cut us off, things got bad. The bills kept stacking up. We thought we could manage, but—" He shook his head. "We couldn't. They lost everything. The house I had spent years paying for, gone. The lifestyle they refused to give up, gone. Ethan's freeloading, over." It should have made me feel something. It didn't. I stared at him, expression blank. "Sounds like a problem you should have thought about before screwing me over." His nostrils flared. "Jesus, Mark, you're seriously going to hold this grudge forever?" I tilted my head. "It's not a grudge. It's a lesson." His hands curled into fists. "I can't believe you'd turn your back on us like this." I let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, that's rich. You turned your backs on me first?" He glared at me, but I could see it now, the defeat in his eyes. He had come here expecting me to break, to feel guilty, to give in. But I wasn't that person anymore. I met his gaze, calm and steady. "Go home, Dad. Or wherever home is now." He had twisted with anger, but there was something else there too. Acceptance. He knew he had lost. Simultaneously, after years of control, manipulation, and entitlement, I was free. Without another word, he turned and walked down the hallway. I didn't watch him go. I didn't call out after him. I just shut the door and locked it for good, the final closure. I never saw them again. Not in person. A few months later, I got a single text from Ethan. "Guess you finally got what you wanted. Hope you're happy." I didn't reply. I just smiled because for the first time in my life I really was. The lesson? If someone only loves you when you're useful to them, it's not love, it's just convenience. And the second you stop being convenient, they show you who they really are. When they do, let them go and never look back.